how far would you go to make an impact in the world? The 10 incredible entrepreneurs will visit our campus to tell their stories and share the steps they took to be catalysts for change. The Entrepreneur Leadership Series, the most valuable one-credit class you will ever take.
Hello, everyone. I'm John, and I'm privileged to be able to present Mark and Spencer Young tonight. They're so excited to be with us, and they made that very clear at our dinner that they're really excited to present to us. So Mark got a master's degree from Michigan State University, and since then spent 30 years in the franchising world. During that time, he owned 6 of the highest performing McDonald's in the whole country and went 24 straight years without a loss in sales. During that time, they managed the McDonald's that was featured on the Jay Leno show during the 2002 Winter Olympics. His son Spencer received his master's degree from the Utah Valley University and played football at Dixie State University. He fell in love with the Culver's brand, and they've worked together as partners on managing several of those over that time and owning them. They've been really good examples, and they're really good mentors to be able to have a good insight into the franchising world of today, and we're really excited for all the words that they have to share with us. So please welcome Mark and Spencer.
Well, nice to be here. Is this on? Good.
Yeah, mine's on too, I think.
Well, let's begin by just expressing gratitude for the opportunity to be here. I'm always grateful to share the stage with my son Spencer, and I think you'll be in for a treat to learn from him and ask him a few questions as the evening begins. I want to especially express gratitude to my dear friend Mike Glauser. Dr. Glauser and I go back, long way back, and dear friends, he and Mary are close to Sue and I, and we love them, and thank you for the opportunity, Mike. Appreciate that.
I'd just say thanks too. We had the opportunity just before this, as you know, to meet with about 10 or 12 of you, and we're grateful for the dinner, but grateful already just for the great questions and the great preparedness that you guys are learning. So we're really excited to be here, really excited to share what we know, but already just impressed with the people we've talked to and just the quality of students here. So thank you.
So we're going to jump into the slides here in just a sec, or into the PowerPoint with a few things and take care of a little bit of some information up front that will be quick and good and valuable, and then we'll get into some specific things. But first, as I walked in today, I met, is it Ethan? Ethan, stand up. And there was Ellie I met. Ellie, stand up. I met these 2 students, and I just standing for a minute. In fact, come down here. Spencer has something for you. I want you to come down, and you're an example of that. If you participate a little bit tonight, how nice it'll be for you to he's got a free meal for you at Culver's, because we're going to talk about Culver's. So thank you very much. They actually look the most hungry and poorest among you. Just kidding. They actually had the biggest smile. I appreciate it. Ellie, you made me feel at home tonight. My oldest granddaughter is an Ellie, so it's nice to meet you. So here we are.
Yeah, we'll just jump right into it. I guess you should introduce yourself. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, you heard this other thing. So I have a BA from Utah in organizational communications. My master's was in organizational behavior, and it was always interesting to me that I learned the world of organizational behavior and then flipped hamburgers afterwards. And but it was I loved that education. I love my connection to those universities, and I love my connection with this university. I was a franchisee for 30 years. We had Park City, Heber, Evanston, Cedar, and Beaver, Utah. And we were spread out a little bit, but those were the restaurants we owned. And I owned a franchise with Costa Vida for a while, enjoyed that immensely, and also now with Culver's restaurants. And so we'll talk about that. And there we go.
Yeah, my name's Spencer. My wife and my kids, I've got 4 kids. this is a pretty recent photo, actually, last week. So I've got a newborn there, so it's a lot of fun. So I've tried to keep up with the amount of restaurants as kids, but I need one more restaurant to keep up. So we've got 3 restaurants right now. The Lehigh one's on there. We owned that for a year, but it was one that we owned for just a short period, and then we sold it. Anyway, we could get
These
into
are my grandkids. Can I have a round of applause for my grandkids? Thank you.
No, you do need to know that anytime you're in business, your spouse is. I always have to thank my wife and my mom with my dad. Anytime you're in business, there's long hours, there's lots of going on, and your spouse definitely has to be supportive. So never go into business as an entrepreneur without the support of your spouse, because it won't work, because there is long hours, there is a grind to it, and you do need their support. And so my wife is definitely that to me with our family. So we do own the Orem, Utah location, or Culver's location. That was our first one. We opened almost 9 years ago. The Logan, Utah one here, of course. We opened December 2019, just in time for COVID. And then St. George, Utah, we bought a year ago. And that's one we'll talk a little bit more about, because that's been a new business model, essentially, we've been doing down there. But and then my wife and I are co-founders with her mom on a company called Pyre Reflective. That's a startup company with athletic reflective clothing for like runners and bikers and stuff. So that's kind of something
the
we've
coolest
done,
running clothing
on the
you
side.
could ever wear. Really cool. Yeah. Okay.
So like we've talked about, we have kind of the experience, and these are the brands that we kind of have experience in as far as franchising, or through Pyre on there as well. But obviously my dad's worked in the life before franchising a little bit, he can talk some about, but mostly this is where our experience comes is with these franchises. Five Guys, my sister owned Five Guys in California. They had several locations, and so we had some experience with that from a distance a little bit. But
that's the backdrop of the restaurants and the franchises that we've owned and been a part of. The other part of the backdrop or foundation for me was coming out of the university with my organizational behavior. I went to work immediately with a large advertising firm that managed the marketing and advertising for McDonald's Corporation. And we'll get into this a little bit more later, but entrepreneurship, franchising, doesn't work unless you become great mentors. And we're going to talk about mentoring tonight a little bit. And we want you to really connect those words together. Entrepreneurship, mentoring, we're going to talk about that, why it's so important. We talk about kindness and how that's a business principle more than it's an attribute. And it's really, we'll talk a little bit about that. But my backdrop is advertising, marketing, and building that brand in that way. And then I found out I could make more money flipping burgers than advertising them, so we went that direction.
We have 2 videos tonight throughout our presentation, but the first one, just to kind of introduce Culver's a little bit, because that's what we do, that's what we love, and so this is the first video we just wanted to give you, just to kind of introduce Culver's a bit.
I love where we come from.
A fantastic place called Wisconsin.
It made us who we are.
Ever been to Wisconsin?
What?
Well, they have some of the coldest winters around.
Dude, aren't you cold? Oh man, I'm from Wisconsin. From Wisconsin, everybody.
People who work hard and appreciate each other's hard work. Folks who are hearty and full of heart. Here, our quirky is charming, our enthusiasm endearing,
From, don't tell me, Wisconsin.
and our passion for taking care of each other never ending.
Oh, geez. If you have to get to Chicago, we'll gladly drive you. It's on the way to Milwaukee.
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
On Wisconsin, on Wisconsin. Jump in when you're ready. Let's go.
Am I biased? You bet I am. Welcome to a place where our love of fresh food is as strong as our love for each other.
And I know Killer Burger in Milwaukee.
Squeaks like a cheese curd. That's how you know it's done right.
Wisconsin, cool. The Badger State, the nation's dairyland.
All I do in Wisconsin is eat cheese. In Wisconsin, it's like they're trying to get rid of it. Oh, hey, you want some cheese? I just woke up. That's a yeah, right?
Hey!
Hey, where are you going to school next year?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Came all the way from Wisconsin to tell me this?
Welcome to Delicious.
Hello, Wisconsin!
So there's Craig Culver. He's the founder of Culver's. But yeah, Culver's started in Wisconsin. So that's just kind of a funny video just to introduce Culver's a little bit in Wisconsin, the pride that comes from Wisconsin with that Culver's culture. But what's cool about Culver's, and one of the things you'll hear us talk about a little bit, is why we chose Culver's a minute later. But Craig Culver was just a big impact on that reason. He's a founder, very successful guy. There's over 950 Culver's in the company now. And yet I, as a single store franchisee, am on a first name basis, get on the phone with him, call him, talk about a daily problem in the restaurant if I had to. And that's something you don't get with every franchise, not with brand, especially with big CEOs, big founders. A lot of times they don't have the time for their franchisees, but that's something that Craig Culver always understood, and that's made Culver successful. And so that's one thing that led us for our love of
That's
Culver's.
a big deal, and a big part of franchising is when you connect with the company, the parent company, and you're one of their franchisees, you need to be connected to the top. And over my 30 years with McDonald's Corporation, I could pick up the phone at different times and talk to the top executives anytime I want. And that wasn't necessarily the case with all the franchisees, but with me it was. And with me it was the type of thing that I wanted to be connected to the company as well. And we'll talk more about that as we get on, and the value that is. The value of a franchise versus starting your own business. I mean, I would love to go out and start my own business, and maybe I still will one day. I mentioned that to Mike earlier tonight. But we have loved being a part of the different parent groups. There's a safety net when you're joining these franchises. And so we can use our entrepreneurial spirit and build those business. They are our own, but being part of a franchise is being connected to that parent company that is really a safety net for you. Think of supply chain alone. We've talked about that, or other parts that the company that you can rely on and be a part of because you're one of their franchisees. Go ahead.
No, for sure. I mean, you mentioned supply chain. Here's 4 things just that you get with a franchise. There's plenty more things you could talk about, but when you talk about proven systems, when you go, you could always go out and open Spencer's Burgers or Mark's Burgers, and what are you going to, I could have opened that here in Logan, Utah. But on the first day I opened Spencer's Burgers, how many of you are going to be flooding down there to go into Spencer's Burgers? There's not a brand awareness. You don't know about it. You're not familiar with it. With a franchise, it's a proven concept. There's an awareness that comes out. Our first day we opened here in Logan, we had a line out the door from people who knew what Culver's were. You have sales your first day, your first week. And then the proven systems that come with that. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're able to capitalize off the mistakes others have already made and already perfected, and you're able to use those systems. But like he mentioned, the infrastructure of it, the websites that you have to create, the supply chain. We talked about purchasing power just barely with the smaller group before this, but the purchasing power of a Culver's or a franchise, we can go buy beef in bulk for the whole, those are big contracts you're negotiating, whereas a Spencer's Burgers down the street is going to have a lot harder time negotiating big contracts on beef prices. So you're able to get your costs down because of big purchasing power and some of these other operational things.
Let's take a minute right now and kind of pause on this and talk about a couple of questions that may come from the group that pertain to franchising itself. What we're going to do here tonight is we're going to talk about franchising for a minute, Then we're going to talk about mentorship, and we're going to talk about how they're related and connected. We're going to talk about some secrets to success and some ways to help you build your own personal brand, who you are and what you can become. And so we're going to talk about some of those things, and that's where we're going to go. But let's pause just for a minute on this slide and talk about maybe there's a couple of specific franchise questions. Maybe there's something there. Tell me your name. Sarah, what's your favorite product at Culver's? No, I'm kidding. See, I like this girl. Yeah. Tell me your name again. Sarah. Sarah, what's your question? Yeah, that's a great question. I get to choose which 18 hours of the day I work. No. That's the benefit, of owning your own business. Owning your own business is not easy. It's a lot of hard work, and Spencer will give us some details of that for a minute, but I joke about that and say choosing which 18 hours of the day you work, but you work a lot. But the nice thing is you really are your own boss, and you really are making a lot of these decisions yourself, and it depends on the time of the year, and it depends on what you're going through and what's happening. But Spence, do you want to weigh in on that?
No, for sure. I mean, it's a great question and that's one of the questions I get every time we speak or talk to people about franchising or just your own business. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sometimes flipping burgers or scooping fries, but obviously as a business owner, I'd rather be more productive, kind of analyzing and growing the business. But depending on the people we have and the time of year, it varies. So during our peak seasons, our peak meal periods, for instance, with a restaurant, we're busy at lunch and dinner and after dinner with ice cream and custard and stuff. So during those times, I'm normally on the floor working just like any other 16-year-old employee of ours would be. I'm scooping fries, I'm taking orders, I'm running orders. During those times, I try to still talk to guests and get to know them and create brand loyalty with our guests. But I do all of that. And then during slower periods, you find time to take care of some of the administrative tasks of paying bills or even better than that is analyzing the data and looking for ways to grow your business, analyzing what opportunities we have. Unfortunately, sometimes in a business, especially a restaurant, but any franchise, you can just get caught in the grind of just the day-to-day work, and you're in the trenches working so much that you don't even feel like you have time to step back and operate a business. And that's what you got to be careful, and that's what you got to make sure you can pull yourself out of those grinds and out of the trenches to really analyze the business and see where it needs to grow.
Sarah, it's a great question, and we can talk a little bit more as we go on tonight about the companies, whether you're an entrepreneur, a franchisee, or whatever you are, the companies that know how to develop people have better control of their own personal time. And as you develop people and you grow people and you build your organization that way, then your time changes. I worked a lot more hours in my restaurants early on than I did later because of wonderful, remarkable people that we were developing. Sarah, this is for you, and I'm just trying to encourage other questions.
Are there other questions about franchising specifically here? What's your name? I'll take that one. The question was to get the money, right, or to start franchising?
Well, it's a great question because you take everyone in this room and you all come from different backgrounds. And some of you may have parents who are very successful that have a business they've grown, and you're able to have them invest in you as their child, and maybe they have $300,000 or $400,000 that you can borrow from them or is gifted to you, and you can start a business, and that's where that money would come from. And I'm not going to ask you to raise hands, but if I were, my guess is there'd be a handful of you that might be in that category. But the vast majority of you, the truth is you don't have that money. Most of you don't have an extra couple $100,000 sitting there that's the initial money that it takes to begin and start a franchise. And so I don't have specific answers other than the way mine started. And the way mine started is that, it's a story that I don't want to take all night on, so the Reader's Digest version of it is that as I came out of advertising and marketing, and incidentally I had a wonderful mentor in that who was a McDonald's owner, and I would meet with him and talk to him about it, and I began to say, I am on the wrong side of this equation, and I need to get on the right side of it, and he helped me do that, mentoring. Now, in doing that, what happened for me is as I tried to get into the McDonald's franchise, and they have certain financial requirements, they had a unique opportunity going on at about the same time I was getting in. And that opportunity is they were looking for young talent because they had a lot of old geezers running their restaurants, guys that had been franchisees for many, many years. And they found that because it was so expensive to get into, that they were having trouble attracting new, young, vibrant franchisees. So they had a system in place where you could literally borrow the money from them to pay your franchise fee, and then over the first 3 years you operated, you had to pay them back. Now that's an interesting deal, isn't it? If you search and you look with the different franchise companies and you want to be there, you'll find ways to get in, like I did. And the other side of this equation is sometimes you can't get into that franchise because you don't have the financial resources, but you desperately want to be a part of that. And so we'll talk about this a little bit more too as we go on, but remember this, that if you don't have that money and you fall into that, then the key for you is to become so valuable to the people you work with or work for, the owner, the boss, hopefully the owner, get to the owner, and you become so valuable to that owner that he or she can't live without you. And as a result, then you begin to find ways to get in. Spencer's going to really dive into that later in a few minutes, actually, and talk about that very principle. What's your name? Katie? Casey. Will you come up? Thanks.
While she's coming up, go ahead here. What's your name?
Here, hand one to, oops. Hand one to him. No, I think I get the question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a partnership when you're in a franchise. So you've got to obviously choose a franchise that you have aligned values with, and that for the most part they're doing things the way that you would do them if you were at the top. Obviously you're going to have disagreements or ways you do things differently at times. But
the thing we found with Culver's is that the values that they have as a corporation, this Craig Culver you saw briefly in the video, his values and the way of doing business are identical to the way we do business. And so we aligned ourselves with him by design. We look into it before we start. You know, if you do your investigative work beforehand, you're not going to align yourself with a franchise or a company that is different from what you want to do. I have found over the years franchisees that have gotten sideways with the parent company and talk about red tape or talk about issues and problems. Most of the time is they're not pulling their weight. But if you're a franchisee that's pulling your weight and you want the same things the company wants, you get along just great. In fact, they want you to grow. They want to give you more stores. They want you to. See, I can tell you right now that Culver's Corporation they want to expand with this guy as much as humanly possible. You know, so they want him to be successful. They're doing everything they can to help him. And as a result, he's doing it in reverse.
Well, the bottom line is we fell in love with this brand and this company, and we want to do things the right way, and they are proven. There's a reason they're successful. There's a reason we fell in love with them. They're doing a lot of things right. And are there times where sometimes we wish they would move a little faster on some aspects? Of course. We got struck with that during COVID when our technology is 20 years out of date and we can't do tablet ordering or things like we'd like to as quick as we'd like to. So we're outside taking orders on pads of paper, where we'd prefer to be doing it like us with our background in McDonald's. We prefer to have the double drive-thrus and the tablet ordering, but sometimes they move a little slower on some of those things. But we're in the organization for a reason. They do a lot of the right things, and so we try to encourage and have that conversations with the franchisor when there's things that we'd like to see improved or changed. But ultimately, you're hopefully picking a brand and a franchise that you're not going to have to try to come across too much red tape with.
The key with this, guys, and remember that there are business principles behind the things we're saying. So try to capture those and try and think about them as we talk. And one of them is the partnership. There is a partnership between us and Culver's. And when there's a true partnership, then you're helping each other and you're growing with it. Take, for example, my years with McDonald's. I mean, you probably think, what's the most popular sandwich over 50 years at the McDonald's restaurants? It starts with the word Big Mac. And it's probably the most popular burger in the history of the world in the sense that because McDonald's is so big, and I'm not getting into whether you like that sandwich versus another today, but I'm saying it's a popular product with McDonald's, right? Well, you're saying, well, that was probably created in a test kitchen back in Oak Brook, Illinois at corporate headquarters. But it wasn't. It was created by a franchisee in Ohio who back in the kitchen in his restaurant, he created that sandwich. And then the corporation took it from there, and it became worldwide. That's just one example.
Let's do one more question on franchising specifically, and then we'll keep going.
I have visions, by the way, of handing out these coupons that 40 of you are raising your hands, but we'll take one right now.
So yeah, just here and then, yep. Well, we should be paying you. You should get up here because that segues right into our next slide, actually. But so we'll answer that with this video or this slide, and then there's one more video about Culver's. But this is why we chose Culver's ultimately over some of the others. So it's a hospitality culture, which is important. We've been talking about people a lot. It's very cliche to say that. Almost every company, every corporation has some sort of motto or core principle that says something about taking care of people, but the reality is most of them don't. And so Culver's, we felt like when we went and met with them at their corporate level before we ever signed on, we felt like we really believed that they believed in people. And that's how we ran our organization. That's how he ran his organization. That's what it was really about for us, was people. Because we believe people's how you build, organizations aren't important, people are important.
Back in the day with McDonald's, it was unheard of the amount of retention we had in McDonald's across the country that we had. People called us, came to us from all over the country to learn about how did we keep our people and how did we develop so many managers. And it's because we truly wanted to invest in people. And we have a handful of people that have gone on and owned businesses and owned these because we've wanted to develop them and help them grow. You might think that works to my disadvantage, to lose, but it doesn't. It always works to my advantage, even though they move on.
You got to keep in mind, anytime someone sees someone else in your organization go on to a more successful thing, that just creates 10 more people who want to be in your organization because they see the success that comes from it.
The funny deal is I was back in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I was there. My daughter she played college basketball, and I was back there watching her play at Valparaiso University. She was the visiting team, and the hotel I was staying in next door, there was a Culver's, and I'd never heard of the brand. And I'd been in McDonald's for quite a while, but Culver's wasn't a Western brand. It was more of a Midwest company. And so there I am, and I go over there for dinner, and I'm just, if you've been in a Culver's, you're astonished with the menu. You stand there, and it's like there's so many things on the menu that it's almost confusing. And so I'm there by myself one evening, and I ordered 15 things on the menu. And they brought it out, and they said, they were shocked. I mean, I have all these things at this table, and I'm seeing their product, looking at it, tasting some of it, and I literally came back and said, we're in the middle of McDonald's right now, but the day will come, I said to my sweetheart Sue, that we will own Culver's restaurants, and I said, I really fell in love with the brand that night. It was interesting. Probably was the cheese curds, I don't know.
How many of you seen the movie The Founder about McDonald's? A lot of you seen it?
Will you do me a favor?
I mean, one of the big things that people always say to us, knowing that I was in McDonald's and we were in McDonald's, is McDonald's is really a real estate company, and that's what McDonald's. McDonald's is in the real estate. They own all the real estate of all their locations worldwide. But one thing that really, to answer your question further, is with Culver's we control our own growth, we control our own expansion, we own our real estate. And one thing that's important to that is when you go into business, there's a few key things that you want to look for. One is, if you really want to be successful, because you want to look for something that, what we have in Culver's is a great thing. Because of the real estate, because of the business equity, we're gaining wealth while we're creating an income for our family. So the wealth is something that we have long after we stop earning a paycheck. So the real estate, the business equity, I could one day sell the business and my income would stop, but I have that wealth I've built up. That's a major thing that's important with what we chose.
You understand what he's saying with the land?
And
McDonald's, I never owned the land. With Culver's, I own the land. See, I own the land. And that's a big deal.
Another nice thing with owning your own business is you do make money when you're not working in this kind of industry. Sometimes, I remember my grandpa was an orthodontist, and he always used to say, Mark, you're smart. You make money when you're not at work. I have to be in the office in order to make my paycheck. So that's one thing that you look for too when you're trying to grow a business. Is it something that, obviously it requires a lot of time, but when you're not there, is it still creating revenue for you?
We talked about a lot of other things. Did we get your question okay? Check. What financing was I looking for? Okay, it's a great question. Every franchise in the world, just last week, Spencer and I got on the phone with 2 different new companies that we wanted to know more about. It would be the same thing you did. One of them was a children's swimming school company. We wanted to learn about it. They're headquartered in Michigan. And we got on the phone with them, and you talk to them, and you go down the road a little bit in this investigative phone call you've had with them. But what you receive from them is an
FDD, a franchise disclosure document, I think is
franchise
what it stands for.
Disclosure document. In there, they lay out the profits that you can make, the costs that are involved, and everything you need. FDD. And you request that from any company that you're investigating. And it gives you all the information you need to get.
You'll find some things on their website, but most of the times legally, there's legal things involved. Most of the times they don't share a lot of that financial information until you've signed a non-disclosure, and then they send you this FDD, and that's where you can kind of get into some of this stuff. And there's no commitment still when you receive that, so it's still in part of the investigatory process.
You just signed that you're not going to go out and what, Spence?
Share the information.
Share the information.
In other words, you can do exactly what my dad's talking about when you're investigating franchises. You can look at several different ones, get these FDDs, compare the numbers, but then you've got to go spend time in those franchises to see.
We're waiting until next week to get a couple of these FDDs back from a couple of these new companies because they sparked our interest, some things that they're doing. We're in the mode right now of trying to maybe diversify a little and do a couple of other things. And so that's how you do it. And if you need help, get our email and talk to us after. Give us a ring.
One last key point I want to make on this slide, and then we can move on, is this owner-operator model. That's something that drew us to Culver's. So there's a lot of restaurants out there, a lot of franchises where they really attract investors because they're profitable and they can make a lot of money. And so investors come in, you hear things like Shaquille O'Neal buying 50 Taco Bells or things like that.
He's an investor. He's never going to spend a day making a taco.
Yeah, we don't want to be in a business. We know we're going to go in and we're going to try to do things the right way. We're going to try to run our business successfully. But we've got to think that the whole brand, there's a brand reputation. When you go into the Culvers here in Logan and then you go to the one in Midvale, do you care that they're different owners? No. You don't know that they're different franchise owners. You know that they're one brand, they're Culver. Same thing with McDonald's. They're all independently owned by different franchises, but you just know McDonald's, Culver. So I want to make sure that when I go into a franchise that my other fellow franchisees are going to run it to the same brand standards because it reflects on me, it impacts me. And so Culver's requires an extensive training program. You have to be an owner-operator that's present and engaged in your restaurant. I don't want to be a part of an organization that allows all these investors to come in and run things absentee. We want to be a part of something that's requiring a lot of their franchisees. They are going to require a lot of me too, but I know that I'm going to do a good job. I believe I'm going to do a good job, and so I don't care about that aspect. I want to make sure everybody in that brand has the same stuff required of them.
Let's take a quick look at this video, should we?
Oh, didn't play. Maybe I just need to click play on this, maybe.
Culver's couldn't have started anywhere but in Sauk City, Wisconsin. Over the years, we've stayed pretty humble about most things, but being from Wisconsin is not one of them. Still today, we are a family restaurant. Proud of our small town roots and nicer than nice people. Here, nearby farms grow the food we eat. Smiles are contagious, and everyone is someone's neighbor. Our food tastes homemade because our menu is homegrown. Head down the road and you'll find the hotly contested home of the hamburger, the city that made frozen custard famous, and a fish fry tradition that goes back to my family's supper club days. It's a place where our love of fresh food is as strong as our love for each other. It's a feeling of welcome you'll notice the moment you stop by at every Culver's restaurant all across the country. Because where we come from has made us who we are. And for that, we couldn't be more proud. Welcome to Delicious.
One thing you hear a lot in that slide, and that's why we wanted to pinpoint or show this, is a lot of people shots, a lot of talking about people, developing people. That's really what it's all about. We've mentioned that several times because we believe, like we said, great leaders build people, not organizations. And that's what we've tried to do, is build people, because that grows. If we take care of our teams and our managers and our people, they're going to take care of our guests, and that's naturally going to grow our profits and make us successful. This is I'll just go through this quickly to show you, this is where we started in our Orem Culvers. We took something that was of no value to somebody, this closed down gas station. It was boarded up for 10 years with these semi-trucks that just parked on it. Nobody wanted to do anything with that property. They called us crazy for going there. But we saw a vision in that. When we took that, we bulldozed it, we built a building, we opened up this beautiful Culver's building, and it's been very successful. But more fun and more impactful than that is when you take these team members that come to work for you. They're shy, they're timid, it's their first day. Most of our teams are 15 and 16, 17, and they come to work for you. It's their first job. And you get to work with them, you get to mentor them, you get to be an impact in their lives. And you take someone who's shy and scared to be there their first day, and you turn them into these great team members for you that really grow and move on to big and great and grand things.
One of the principles of leadership that we like is this idea of mentoring people and kids and young adults and helping them. And so you need to put yourself, there's two things we want you to consider right now. One is, what is what kind of leadership styles do you have? What do you possess? And we're going to just give you a glimpse at a little chart here that tells you a little bit about different leadership styles. The second thing we're going to talk about coming out of that is the idea of building your own personal brand and what you can become and why that's important in this process.
And we'll go through this a little bit quicker just because we do want to get to that next step a little bit faster because that's the core of what it is. This is more just to kind of, so we will go through this a little bit quicker just because of time. But, you know, if you're a removed leader, in other words, if you're an absentee leader, a manager or owner, you know, you're not going to enforce policies and standards. So there's going to be a low level of enforcement of policies and standards, and that's going to lead...
A little bit disengaged.
And with the people that you work with, there's going to be a lower connection. And that's going to result in disengagement between you and your employees, you and your team. If you're the buddy manager, you're the buddy leader, that's going to lead to low enforcement of policies and standards, but typically a high connection with your team. You're normally they're going to love you because they don't have to be...
You're their buddy. You're their chum. You're their friend. I think this is the most dangerous characteristic of a manager or leader.
Because ultimately it does lead to that entitlement where they feel like they don't need to do the work, they're just entitled to be there. So obviously the opposite of that, where you're a controller, where all you care about is the policies and standards, you're enforcing everything, but you maybe don't have as much of a connection with the team because you're not willing to work with them.
Typically you get results, but you get them at a cost. You're controlling things too much. It's not a friendly environment. Your turnover typically is higher, but you're typically having results. You're probably sitting here identifying different people you work with or know, or different bosses you've had over the years. I see a couple of smiles over.
And the last one, obviously the most important one, the focus of really what we wanted to talk to about tonight more than anything is being a mentor, because that leads to, high policy, high standards, high connection with your team. You're getting to know them on a personal level, but they know that, and they respect you because they know you're going to work alongside them. They know you care about them, and they know that you're invested in their success.
I mean, you become a counselor, a long-term mentor in that case, and there's a high level of esteem and high opinions, a lot of value to this type of leadership. Okay, so where do we go from here? Are we going to introduce them? So Will?
Yeah. So my dad talked a lot about this already, so we'll just kind of go from here. But everybody needs a mentor. My dad had a mentor. He's mentored several people. He could go on for hours about.
There's about 5 other circles. There are a total of about 10 people that have worked for me directly that have gone on and owned their own businesses. I mean, Gordon owns Burger King's, Scott owns McDonald's restaurants in Kansas. These are people that started with us and now own their own business. And there's others that we didn't list here that own other kinds of businesses outside the food industry as well.
Well, and obviously I'm in the middle circle there. My dad was a big mentor to me and still is and continues to be. But to come back to your question over here about what do you do if you don't have the finances, the $200,000, the $500,000 to start a business like this that it requires typically is you do what Will Henry did. So Will Henry came to work for me in Orem 8 years ago as a team member making $8 an hour. He was going to school at Utah Valley University at the time and got a job working just as a team member. Pretty soon he was working pretty hard, and we recognized that this isn't just our normal team member, so he moved into management pretty quickly and was in management for us for several years. But he did exactly what my dad talked about. He became someone we couldn't live without. We needed him in our organization. I couldn't think about running my Orem Culvers without him as part of it. And so everything we did, our future decisions about expansion, about growth, Will all of a sudden was in the conversation about it.
It led to Spencer creating a new business model, creating a model where a management person can come into ownership, and because he didn't have the money to go buy his own business or create it. But go ahead.
Well, here's Will Henry, obviously, and he now is an owner with us in our St. George location. He owns part of the business with us, over 20% of the business with us. So he runs that. He's the full-time owner. The team knows he's the owner. He's in the store running that, and he makes a salary plus 20% of the business, and that's just to start with. That's just where he started. Obviously, he'll continue to accumulate and grow his ownership and expansion with us. But
I mean, think about your wages and think about the different things that you're doing in your life. Here's a young man who starts this part-time job at $8 an hour. And before he knows it, within a few years, he's making $60,000 a year as a general manager of the restaurant. So he made that climb. That took some time. Took some effort and some energy on his part. He gets to that level where he's the general manager. He's running that one restaurant. And now he jumps and he becomes a part owner of the third Culver's that Spencer opens. And now his salary is up over $150,000 a year. And so now all of a sudden he's really climbing, and the future for him is limitless. I mean, what if he, instead of one Culver's restaurant that he owns, maybe he's engaged in 3 or 4 with Spencer down the road? We just don't know. We'll see where that goes. But what are the principles?
Well, I was going to say, I'm not unique as a business owner looking for people like Will. I can promise you there's organizations and businesses out there that are looking for people to invest in. So if you have an interest, something that you want to be a part of, an organization you want to be a part of, something you want to do, go meet them, meet the owner, get to work with them. Go in and work at $8 an hour if you have to, at $10 an hour, but work alongside and prove to them that you're so valuable that they need to expand, and that it's going to benefit me more than him to give him that ownership. And that's exactly what it's been, essentially, is with me and Will. We own the St. George Culver's together, but it's benefiting me equally as much as it's benefiting Will. It was the best decision I ever made to give him 20% ownership.
Why would he give up 25% ownership, though? I mean, that's an interesting deal, isn't it? Think about that business model and why that might have some value in your future.
But if there's one word I know most of you have probably realized there's a word up there that's a duplicate. It's the word patient. Maybe you didn't notice that yet, but there's one thing if you're going to go that route, you do need to be patient. It took Will 8 years, which is actually pretty fast if you go that route. But if you're young, like most of you are, and you've got the drive, and you're willing to put in the time, go and align yourself with an organization that you can work your way through. And over time, if you're hardworking, if you're loyal, if you have integrity, if you're accountable, if you've got that kindness and gratitude and you're teachable, they'll teach you how to do everything you need to do in the organization to be successful. But if you have these qualities and you're patient, there's a much better chance you could be successful going that route. Because I can tell you one thing is we've now tried, since doing this with Will, we've tried 2 other times with 2 other individuals, and they're lacking patience, and so it's not going to work. They want it in 2 years. They want it in 1 year. They want this ownership so fast.
It takes time for us to know that we're willing to invest that kind of ownership with people. It takes time, you know.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing I want. I'd like you just to understand that, is that there's people like me wanting individuals to come and grow their business and expand with. But
so it was a great question that was asked over here about how do you get started if you don't have the money? This is kind of the answer. You got to connect yourself to someone, okay? And these are the things you have to remember as the mentee. Those are the skill sets, okay? So let's take just a minute and talk as we begin to wrap up some of the stuff here. And that is that I've always held on to this principle or this idea that there are, while there are these great brands out in the world, throw out 3 or 4 names of some of the great brands of any industry that you know. Nike, Apple, Chick-fil-A. No, that's not one. What? Coke, of course. Okay, get him 2 of those coupons. 3 coupons, okay. So now, instead of throwing out those names, I want you to think of something else with us for just a minute. It was easy for you to throw out those names, right? Now I want you to throw out the names of people that you know that have developed their own personal brand. I want you to think of you becoming a brand.
Let me give you an example real quick. Who knows Tesla? Everybody's heard of that brand. Who knows Elon Musk? Everybody's heard of his brand. who knows Coke? Who started Coke? One just quick example of that is Elon Musk created his own brand alongside his brand of his company. But that just is a quick point of
so
what does that mean?
So what is your brand, and what does that mean? And it's almost like another way of saying it is, what are people saying about you in a sense? So throw out some names of somebody that's a great personal brand, somebody that you think of that way, that has their own brand. Throw out the name. I don't know Eric Schultz. Am I supposed to know Eric Schultz? Okay, great. So give me one word. Give me one word that defines him. That was 2 words. Okay, brand centric. Somebody else, throw out a name. One more. Back. Jeff. What's one word that defines Jeff? What?
What was it? Hungry.
Okay. A developer. So what we want you to do is think about this and write down the attributes. What makes you a special brand that makes you more valuable to me than anybody else? Why would Ellie, if Ellie came to work with us, what would Ellie's brand, what would she, what's the most important thing that you develop and who you become? So we don't have time to do all that tonight and time to dive into that further, but you do. You have time to write the question right now on your sheet of paper that says, what is my brand?
I would point out, too, that not every brand is the same. They have different
value.
They have different goals. And there's more than one successful brand. There's not one correct answer to this, obviously, but it's how do you want to be known? Do you have a question?
It's a great question.
We talked about that on the way up here. We knew you'd ask that.
Did you have one?
I would say when on my slide, my family slide at the beginning, it's not really a quote, but it basically says, planners plan, but doers do. And one thing I would say about that is it's good to plan, obviously. I wouldn't say go into anything without a plan. But there's some people who overanalyze everything to the point that there's never any action to it. And one thing that I've learned from my dad that I've tried to do that I would say is a brand that we both have together is that we're doers. We get things done. If there's a problem in the restaurant, if there's a problem, we don't rest until it's solved. We don't rest until it's done and until we've overcome that. And so I think being a doer is something that you would describe us with.
One of the phrases that has become a brand for me, and people know that about me, is that if you own the morning, you win the day. And I'm a big believer in that. I believe that if I own my mornings, I'll always win that day. I'm an early riser. I study hard, and I work hard in the early mornings of the hour. And it's always worked for me. Another word for me would be kindness. I think it's an attribute in the business world. And I think I benefit from doing that, you know. Okay, well, I think our time's shot.
Yeah,
so
let's...
Okay, great.
Right here in the front.
Will you pass those out for me as people ask? Let's give a few more out. That's such a good question.
A great question. So obviously we can't really change the menu. We can't add new products. There's certain marketing initiatives that they're going to want us to go with, obviously. But who is it? Was anybody at the Utah State game last night? The free Culver. So that was we do a thing if the Aggies score 75.
The corporation didn't ask him to do that.
Yeah, if they score 75 points, we give out free custard. So that's just something that we do. So local marketing, we have a lot of control over. We have a lot of control over, how we grow our people, but yet we're getting training from the corporation. So I would say, there's no difference from us running this essentially from how I'd be running it otherwise, except for that I just probably am constrained by my menu and my, would you add anything to that?
No. Let's go to another question. What is the process for deciding if a franchise will work in a geographic location?
Employees.
For us, it's changed in the last couple of years. We won't build a Culver's anywhere where we don't think we can staff it. We've walked away from locations because we think it would become too difficult. And so that's part of it. But just a lot of demographics. What is the traffic count on the interstate? On the traffic count on the interstate going past the Orem Culver's, it's over
150,000 cars a day.
150,000 cars a day. We know that number, and we know how many cars go by down here past the Logan. So you study those things, you look at them. That's a help, by the way, of the franchise parent company. The franchisor will come in and help identify. Although in every case, we have chosen our sites and asked them to validate them, and they have. No, because it's a national supply chain, so.
But still to this day, Culver's has a lot of their day one suppliers from farms in the Midwest there that supply all the custard and beef.
Yeah. It better be a good one. What did you do? Oh, he put it up there. See, this is how prepared Spencer is. He anticipated your question.
Well, my dad can tell you his story about when Starbucks came to town,
and I will just real quick. I owned the McDonald's in Evanston, Wyoming. Anybody know where that is? So I owned it for a lot of years. I made a lot of money in that wonderful little community. I love Evanston. I've spoken in that high school more times than I'd like to admit. But one day Starbucks came to town, which shocked me that Starbucks would come to little old Evanston, Wyoming, but they came right across the street from me, and I was worried about the breakfast business. And so one of the things that I did, and I'm sure Starbucks, if it would have been worth it to them, they would have battled and with theirs could have battled me well. But what we did is put a banner outside on our fence that offered free coffee. And we just...
So starting next week at Culver's, we have free burgers. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. But obviously
Starbucks, by the way, left 8 months later. Didn't last a year. And we put, free coffee for 3 straight months, not tied to any purchase.
In-N-Out's a good company. There's other good companies. We just believe we do it better, and if we do it the right way, like we want to, then we're confident that we'll always be successful. We're really grateful for you guys giving us the time today. I know there's probably other questions that they get asked. These are our emails. You're more than welcome to reach out to us. We do own the Culver's here in town. And more than happy if you have questions or ever want to come and meet or things like that. We're more than happy to take more time with you. But
I want to thank Spence for the opportunity to be on the stage with him. I remember when he was not tall enough, so I got a milk crate that he stood on in the drive-thru to hand the bags out the window to customers. Now, my concluding invitation to you is this. You develop yourself into the best possible brand. You become special. You become so valuable that everyone around you knows it, and they love you and they need you. We've talked tonight about different brands. I love Starbucks. In-N-Out's great. We've talked about McDonald's. That has been a franchise in my history. It's not a part of me now. I'm not a part of it right now. But I loved them. I made a lot of money with McDonald's over the years. We preached a lot of Culver's tonight, and we appreciate you responding to the positive nature of that. So all of this combined and all of it together comes down to a message from me to you, and it's sincerity. To me, franchising is me owning a business. I'm no different than any other entrepreneur. And the thing most important to me and to Spence is that we love our people. They're important to us. We want to develop them. We want to help them. At any given time over the years, I've had private interest-free loans out to 20 of my employees, trying to help them with things and do things. And so connect yourself with the right people, become so valuable to them they can't live without you. Remember the principle of kindness and build your brand. Will you do it? Okay, thanks guys.